No one's gonna tell your story for you. You have to tell your story, and the only way you get good at telling your story is by practicing, and your story's gonna sound different today than it did last week, and it's gonna sound different next week than it does today. So just practice using your voice, practice bragging about yourself because you are remarkable, but nobody knows how remarkable you are unless you tell them.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Going in. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another mini episode. We're here. It's
Hi.
Mandy and Amani chatting with you. We have a very interesting topic we're going to talk about today. Mandy, what is the topic that we're going to discuss?
We are gonna talk about how to stop being invisible online and how to build your social capital.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if someone is invisible online, what does that mean? Does that mean you Google them, they don't show up? What does that mean?
Google them, they don't show up. They have no social presence. They have no LinkedIn. They have no Instagram. They have no any other platform. And again, this isn't Judgy Judgersons. This is a lot of people don't realize that their competitors are way more visible online. And I think the stat for me that has come up recently that really resonates with me, and Google put this information out last fall, is that 68% of the people that are buying right now, they look at 3 online reviews or more.
Mm.
And that's just like where the stakes are low. Like you're buying a book, you're making a dinner reservation, you are, you're doing a golf, you're doing a golf tee time, all the way up to Google reviews on nannies and doctors and things where the stakes are higher. So that really resonated with me. If we know that people's buying behavior right now is to go online first and look for the social street cred, right? Like that social credibility of that business or that person. If we know that to be true, then why are we so invisible online? Like, why are you not putting yourself online? Like, the power is in the pocket right now. We've got to be where the screens are because we're in the attention economy. And we've got to do what we can to be able to capture people's attention. So, a lot of these things have been happening recently where these statistics are coming out. And it makes sense, right? Like, what do you do when you want to learn something about it? You go to ChatGPT, you go to Claude, you go to Google. If you have no online presence, then you're invisible. You're literally invisible. You don't have to have the best online presence. You just have to have some online presence.
So, online presence could mean you're on LinkedIn and you're posting a couple times once a
Yeah.
week.
Or you're on LinkedIn and you're just adding comments to people's
Uh,
posts
okay.
in their feed. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can be you have a website. If you don't
Oh, I
have
was
a
going to ask about
website,
that. Yeah.
you could, if you don't have a website, you could do a show like this. You could do a LinkedIn Live once a week. And I think in our industry, in our industry, we've got entrepreneurs, but we also have meeting planners. And right now, with the economy being really tricky and with layoffs happening and people's jobs at stake, registrations for conferences are more vulnerable now than ever before. And so, as meeting planners, we've got to really be looking at all these alternative ways to stimulate registration. So, I look at this through the lens of a business owner, but I also look at this as a lens, through our meetings industry as well.
What are your three favorite under the radar ways to become visible online?
Mm. Okay, one of my favorite ways is have your own GIF. And I love it. I have my own gifts and I hired somebody to make them for me and it didn't cost as much as a billboard, I'll tell you that. It didn't cost as much as a magazine ad or a trade show. And I love that because now when I comment online, I can comment using my own gift, a gift of me high kicking or a gift of me
Yeah.
like taking my glasses off saying awesome. That's an easy way to be visible. If you don't want to hire somebody to do it, the Giphy app is very easy to use, and you can just create your own GIF. I created my husband, I created a gift for Scooter for his 50th birthday, and it
Yeah.
took me like 4 minutes. It was
Yeah.
super fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great one. I have my own gifts. I followed the Mandy plan for that, and I love
Hmm.
using them. I have one for my logo that gets used a lot, which was shocking. It doesn't really tie back to me a little bit, but it still works.
That's
I have one for
interesting.
my book and everything. Okay, what's another under the radar way to be visible online without spoiling all of the good goods? Because I know you have like a full presentation on this, so talk to us and tell us about the presentation and what's going to happen with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had to learn this the hard way. When my book came out, my first book came out in 2021, and I signed my publishing deal, and I was so excited. And then it was like, oh no, now you've got to market the book. So,
Mhm.
and I had never thought about marketing the book. I thought I'd write the book and I'd publish the book, and then my mom would read it. I didn't think about getting it into the hands of thousands and thousands of people, which eventually it did, but I didn't think about that. And how people buy is online. And
Yeah.
I had to teach myself online tactics. I had no online strategy. And so I learned along the way. So I think if you are creating something, if you have a new restaurant, a new bar, a new renovation, a new hotel, a new book, people love behind the scenes. So I would just show behind the scenes. So something I did when I wrote my book was I put my title of the book and then the subtitles that I was thinking of, and I asked people what should I do? Which do you vote on? A, B, C, or D? And then people bought in. Then they were like, "Oh, Mandy's writing a book. This is interesting." Then when my book cover came out, I posted a couple of those and said, "Which book cover do you like best?" I know you did that too, Amani. And
Yes.
then it just is that little reminder that, oh, you've got a book coming out. I'm keeping my eyes peeled for that. It's a little bit of a whisper campaign or a drip campaign. Everybody calls it something different. But behind the scenes is great. And if I worked at a hotel right now, I would be showing everything behind the scenes, from fire, things being cooked in the kitchen, to how I prepare for a site inspection, to anything behind the scenes.
Yeah. That was one of my highest performing posts last year was when I put the book cover, 4 book cover options up and said, "Which one do you like the most?"
Oh, really?
Put up on like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and I got probably the most engagement on that post. And then once I revealed the cover was number 2. But yeah, so the choices
Wow.
though, yeah.
What'd you do? So remind me, tell a audience how you did that post. Just give everybody a little sampling.
Yes, I used Canva, made a grid of 4, put 4 different cover options, A, B, C, D. I said, "Here are the potential covers for my book. Rank them in order of preference." And people would rank them. I wrote it down. I took notes. They share their thoughts or whatever. "Oh, I like this. I like this." Sent it across all 3 different platforms. And overwhelmingly, the most favorite cover was the one that I chose. And it was overwhelming, which
It's
was
a
like, I'm
good
the people
cover.
spoke. Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
It's and it's your favorite color,
Yeah.
orange, Amani.
Mhm.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was one. Then behind the scenes, did I put up any footage? I have some footage of me recording the audiobook too. I can share that. But it is evergreen content too. So that's good. Something I
What do you mean
learned.
by evergreen? Explain that to the audience.
So evergreen content is some content you can put up that will always be relevant. Like just because when you're recording a part of your book, like it's not going to become old and outdated in like 3 months or whatever. People will always go back and look at that or just be like, "Oh, how'd you do that? What's the equipment?" All sorts of questions. I need to share more of that. So that's what I mean by evergreen. Um, then now, just kind of to continue with the theme for today, I someone asked me this question. Great question. They said, if you were to go back to the beginning of your launch and participate in maybe 1 or 2 other platforms that you forgot about, what would you do? And I chose these 3. I chose Reddit for the subreddit, the content of my book, which would be R&B. There's a really active Reddit.
Mhm.
Participate in that. The second was Pinterest in terms of
Mhm.
driving traffic to the book website, which I'm doing later, but that was a great one there, Pinterest. And then third was Community. Community is the texting app where you can text people updates and things like that to your phone. And that's just another way you can stay visible. So that was just a question for me. Um, how would you answer that? Like as you're in the process of book number to
Hmm.
what are some platforms that you might not normally be active on that you might think about becoming active on?
Well, I didn't know anything about community till you just said that. So I'm gonna look that up. I just learned something from you. I had no idea what that is. So thank
Yeah,
you, Amani.
yeah.
Um, Threads wasn't out when my first book came
Ah,
out, and I think Threads is very good for creators, for artists, people that write and do things like that. I think Blue Sky is also really good for creators and not artists, but people in that business, that the actual business of a business. So I'll get more involved with that. And I don't know, I'm gonna have to think about that. I didn't use YouTube as much the first time around, and now I have a pretty active YouTube channel, so I'll definitely use that for sure. But I will say this: this is the third tactic to be more visible online. This kind of ties to your question: is podcasts, podcasts, podcasts. And you and I know this because we do the presentation. We educate marketing people all the time about the power of podcasts. 165 million Americans are listening to podcasts. That is it's half of the United States listening or watching podcasts. That's a huge number. And we don't have that type of attention anywhere. You can't pay for that type of attention anywhere, and podcasts are free. So start a podcast. If you don't want to start one, if you can't, that's fine. Listen to podcasts so you can just learn about your craft, or you can learn about people to network with. If you don't want to listen, get on podcasts.
guesting.
And
Yeah.
and and I would, what I did when I released my audiobook was I did a podcast tour, but I would actually get on podcasts sooner,
Yeah.
in the creation stage, than instead of the release of the audio stage. That would be my lesson this time around. But then the fourth thing is, if you don't want to create a podcast, you don't want to be on a podcast, you don't want to listen to a podcast, sponsor a podcast,
Mm,
because your money can only go so far right now, and that's a limited asset, right? But it goes so much farther, because with podcasts, you've got multiple clips that are repurposed over and over and over again. And like you said, it's evergreen content. So it's not like you run that commercial during that one segment of that one show. This is showing on multiple platforms, multiple times a day, forever. So, if you are a new business, or you're an existing business looking to put your marketing dollars somewhere, I would dip your toe in the water and just investigate sponsoring a podcast. So, like, podcast is a big thing. We know that our election was very, very focused this past year on podcasting. There's a lot of influence in podcasts, but like, we marketing chief marketing officers know the power of it, but a lot of people don't know how to dip their toe in the water on it. So I would just say, don't it doesn't have to be perfect the first time around. Just
yeah.
dip your toe in the water and learn a little bit about it. And you learn a little bit more and more every day when you build in public. So, and that's what the beauty of podcasts, people are building in public. So that would be, a great way to be visible online, whether it's your voice visible, or your physical face visible, or your brand just more visible online. Sorry, Monty, there's like a bug. I'm just swatting away.
It's okay. It's okay.
That's great.
All
So.
right. That's good. That's good. Anything else that we should share really quickly for this mini about no longer being invisible online?
I mean, no one's going to tell your story for you. You have to tell your story. And the only way you get good at telling your story is by practicing. And your story is going to sound different today than it did last week. And it's going to sound different next week than it does today. So just practice using your voice, practice bragging about yourself, because you are remarkable, but nobody knows how remarkable you are unless you tell them.
All right. That's a good note to end on. So that is our mini for the day. If you have ways that you feel people should stop becoming or stop being invisible online, share them in the comments section. Make sure to rate, review, and share this podcast, either if you're watching or listening, to a friend or colleague. And we will see you next week for another mini.
See
Take
you
care,
next
everyone.
week. Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Adventures in Business. Don't forget to rate and review our podcast on the platform that you're currently listening it on. And don't forget to share it with your friends and anybody that might be as much of the business nerds as Amani and I are. See you next time for another captivating interview.